Good morning, and thank you for joining us for Live Impact News on 13 News Now Plus. We begin with breaking news coming in right now. We are taking a live look as the DOJ says it has made an arrest in the deadly 2012 attacks in Benghazi. If you recall, 4 Americans, including a U.S. ambassador, died in that attack on the U.S. diplomatic outpost. Again, that press conference is underway right now, but we want to go back to the moments where it began. Here we go. You're learning the moments from the DOJ.
Good morning. On September 11th, 2012, Americans watched horrified as our embassy in Benghazi came under a vicious terror attack. We lost 4 American lives that day: Ambassador Chris Stevens, Sean Smith with the State Department, and 2 CIA contractors, Glenn Doherty and Tyrone Woods. We have never forgotten those heroes, and we have never stopped seeking justice for that crime against our nation. In fact, from day one, Cash and Dan would sit in meetings and say, "We're going to get them," and they did. Today, I'm proud to announce that the FBI has arrested one of the key participants behind the Benghazi attack. Zubair al-Bakosh landed at Andrews Air Force Base at 3 a.m. this morning. He is in our custody. He was greeted by Director Patel and U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro. Hillary Clinton famously once said about Benghazi, "What difference at this point does it make?" Well, it makes a difference to Donald Trump. It makes a difference to those families. And 14 years later, it makes a difference to law enforcement who made the difference in this case. Thank you, President Trump, for supporting all of our agencies around the country and around the world. Al-Bakosh will now face American justice on American soil. We will prosecute this alleged terrorist to the fullest extent of the law. He'll face charges related to murder, terrorism, arson, among others. Let this case serve as a reminder. If you commit a crime against the American people anywhere in this world, President Trump's Justice Department will find you. It might not happen overnight, but it will happen. You can run, but you cannot hide. We are immensely grateful to our partners, especially at the State Department and the CIA, who lost lives in the Benghazi attack. Director Patel and the FBI agents did tireless work to track and arrest this man. I want to thank everyone standing behind me, all the agents who work so great with our lawyers, with our national security lawyers, and around the world to bring this terrorist to justice. And I have a statement to read from Director Radcliffe. He wanted to be here. He couldn't be here. He's busy protecting our world. He's deeply grateful for the relentless efforts of the Department of Justice and the FBI to bring justice to the individual allegedly responsible for the death of Americans in the horrific 2012 Benghazi attack. CIA and the nation will never forget the extraordinary services and sacrifices of Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty, who gave their lives in defense of others and exemplified the very best of our agency. I'd now like to turn it over to Director Patel for remarks.
And there you hear it from the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. We will now hear from the FBI Director Kash Patel, again, as they announced that they have made an arrest in the attacks in Benghazi back in 2012.
The president never forgot. This FBI never forgot. And certainly U.S. Attorney Pirro never forgot. When an act of terrorism of this magnitude strikes at the heart of our nation, we go to work. President Trump has given us the full resources at the FBI and across the interagency to make sure we deliver justice. And Pam, you're right. Dan and I did sit down early on about this to bring justice, but you led the effort. You brought together the interagency. You said we are going to get this done because no one agency alone can do it. So we are thankful to have an Attorney General at the Department of Justice who works together with every single cabinet secretary and enforce the law. What you saw today, and I want to get, or what you're going to see today, I want to address in a minute, but I want to remind the folks out there the work of this Department of Justice. We were here just a few short months ago talking about how we were going to raise the RFJ for another violent offender on the run, Ryan Wedding. And what did we do under Attorney General's leadership? And what did we do when President Trump said, go get the worst of the worst? We captured him. We captured together, under President Trump's leadership, 6 of the FBI's most wanted fugitives in 1 calendar year. To put that in perspective, that is 2 more than the entirety of the prior administration. And you cannot do that alone at the FBI. You have to have an Attorney General and a Department of Justice willing to prosecute, willing to go to the 4 corners of the earth and make sure we deliver justice. And that's what we're doing here today. I was at the airfield with U.S. Attorney Pirro earlier this morning when we did the formal foreign transfer of custody of Bakush into U.S. custody to face prosecution under her auspices and her office. And the Department of Justice are going to execute justice for the fallen. As a young prosecutor at CTS, the National Security Division, I worked on the Benghazi case. This was very near and dear and personal to me. We lost 4 brave Americans in Chris, Sean, Kyle, and Steve. And we can never, ever, ever forget them. Ever. And we will not. In order to put something like this together, it doesn't happen overnight. The FBI's hostage rescue team, the FBI's critical incident response group, our special flight operations unit, and countless others, along with the agents in the New York field office who never forgot Benghazi and never let the world forget it, endured over a decade to bring yet another terrorist who killed 4 Americans to justice. That is a relentless pursuit of mission that can only happen when you have an interagency who's willing to get after it. I'm extremely thankful to the CIA and Director Ratcliffe and our other law enforcement partners for making sure that the world knows that if you kill an American citizen in an act of terrorism, we will hunt you down. We will bring you to justice, and you will face justice here in America, not in another court and not in any other proceeding around the world, but here. You killed our own, so we are going to take it to the streets to make sure you are held accountable. Once again, I'd really like to thank the entirety of the FBI, headquarters divisions. There are so many moving pieces to actually execute a foreign transfer of custody. And now we're talking about the 7th, the 3rd in just a couple of weeks. And I don't know if that has ever happened before in U.S. history. It's happening because President Trump backs the blue. President Trump has given law enforcement the resources we need to take the fight across the world. And the Attorney General has been relentless in her mission to make sure that these victims are remembered and that we bring them some semblance of peace by bringing those who killed their loved ones to justice. It's a little full circle for me. Yes, then Director Deputy Bongino and I did sit down and said, how are we going to get this guy? How are we going to find the individual responsible for the Benghazi attacks? And we sat down with Janine Pirro, and we sat down with the AG and her team and the Deputy Attorney General. And every single day, every single week, we talked about how we would do it. And we're here today because we have an interagency that is led by superior individuals who have one shared goal: protecting America and our lives and our future. And to any others out there who wish to do harm, especially commit acts of terrorism here and around the world, this is the feat you will meet. You will not be forgotten by us. We will chase you down.
So you got to hear there from FBI Director Kash Patel, and obviously the passion that they have today on this major announcement from the Department of Justice that an arrest has been made, that individual in custody here in the United States in the 2012 attacks in Benghazi, Libya. Again, 4 Americans, including a U.S. ambassador, died in those attacks, and you can hear from them just how much this meant for him, in particular for Patel, in order to make that announcement. Now, Sarah, I know that they just wrapped up their press conference. Do we have any more of it available now? We might try to circle back and get that into the system later.
I have it ready. So we're going to jump back into when Jeanine Pirro starts talking. And
Okay.
then I think they did a question and answer, which it wrapped up literally 2 minutes ago.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and play that again. The suspect, Zubair al-Bakush, was brought to Andrews Air Force Base at 3 o'clock this morning. That is what we have just learned from the Attorney General Pam Bondi here. So let's go ahead and hear now from U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro.
As a scene unfolded in a foreign land, in one of the most dangerous places in the world for Americans, Benghazi, Libya. An American ambassador, elite military personnel, and a State Department employee were all violently murdered. For 13 hours, the American cavalry never came. For 13 hours, they waited for help that never came. Today, President Trump is making sure that American justice is coming for those individuals responsible for the deaths of those 4 Americans. Bakush is now on U.S. soil because of the President, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel. The FBI, the Department of Justice, never forgot. There are prosecutors in this room right now who have been in the office for 13 years and have consistently handled this matter in this case. This department will never forget the seemingly forgotten in that outpost in Benghazi. Bakush was first charged by complaint in 2015, which was sealed for 11 years. An indictment, an 8-count indictment, has been unsealed, and it charges Bakush with the murder of Ambassador Chris Stevens, the murder of State Department employee Sean Smith, the attempted murder of State Department Special Agent Scott Wickland, and conspiracy to provide materials for terrorists and support that resulted in the death of 4 Americans, as well as arson at the special mission. I don't have to go through all of the facts, but every one of us remembers this case. I reported on it when I worked at Fox. I had relationships, as Kash Patel just said, with the families. And last night, as soon as they were in custody, because of Pam and because of Kash, we had a limited unsealing order from Judge Cooper that allowed me to speak to the family members to let them know that justice was coming for Bakush. I spoke with Sean Smith's mother, who I've known for years and have communicated with for years. I spoke with Tyrone Woods' widow, Dr. Dorothy Woods. I spoke with Ambassador Chris Stevens' family, as well as Glenn Doherty's brother, Greg, as well as his widow. These were people who never expected that justice would be coming. They never knew about the determination in this room and behind me and the incredible work of the FBI along this case for years and years, because this was something that mattered. The Benghazi saga was a painful one for Americans. It has stayed with all of us. And let me be very clear, there are more of them out there. Time will not stop us from going after these predators, no matter how long it takes, in order to fulfill our obligation to those families who suffered horrific pain at the hands of these violent terrorists. And now, I again want to tell everyone that American justice is here, that President Trump will make sure that the cavalry comes for Americans no matter where they are in this world. Thank you.
Okay, there you have it again. We wanted you to be able to hear from them directly in this breaking news this morning, right off the top here at 10 o'clock. A suspect in the 2012 Benghazi attack has been arrested, according to the DOJ, and was brought back to Andrews Air Force Base early this morning. That, according to, again, the Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. So, a big news there today. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. And on the other side, some other national and local news that is certainly something you want to hear from here on Live Impact News. Thanks for staying with us here for Live Impact News. I wanted to bring to your attention something that is certainly causing a lot of conversation this morning, and it comes from the social media account of President Trump. Overnight, the president posted a video that includes a racist image of former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama appearing as apes in this portion of a video. This has been circulating now within the news early this morning, with Democratic leaders responding very strongly against this video. The White House has already responded to it as well, downplaying the aspect of the video. I'll just let you know right now, we debated back and forth whether or not we were going to show it to you. I'm not going to show it to you, but this was posted last night. We have the screen recordings, and it's still up on Truth Social under President Donald Trump's page. Now, the video, for majority of it, about a minute long, is a video that had already been put out there with claims of election interference in the 2020 elections, and looking at the claims that had not been founded as to how it could have possibly happened in multiple states across the country. Then within the last few seconds of it, it switches to another clip that, again, appears to show what I described to you at the top, with the Obamas with their faces on the body of an ape. And again, a 62-second clip all in all. Here's what we're hearing from the White House. They're saying that this is an internet meme video depicting President Trump, or saying it was from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. This is from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt via text to the Associated Press. She says, "Please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American public." So far, the president has not commented on the video in his post. Now, the frames in which the image that I am referring to that are part of that post did come from a larger video that was previously circulating by an influential conservative meme maker, and it does show Trump as king of the jungle and a range of Democratic leaders as animals, including Joe Biden, who is white, as a primate eating a banana. Again, the context of all of this, right? You have the Obamas who are black on the body of an ape, this being shared overnight by the President of the United States during Black History Month at that. So certainly that is something that is now making its way through multiple lawmakers across our country. And it's just started breaking this morning just before our stream started. I wanted to make you aware of that. Again, we decided that we were not going to air the video. We really went back and forth on it. And a little bit of context as well with the president and former President Barack Obama, if you recall, when he was president, former President Barack Obama, it was now President Trump who was one of the main people who pushed the idea that Obama, who was born in Hawaii, was not actually born in Hawaii, but was born in Kenya, and led to calls for the former president to share his birth certificate and starting that movement. So there is a bit of history there. But again, the context of all of this, those images, it is what it is. But I'm sure we'll get more response of that throughout the rest of this day and moving forward. The White House, again, at this point, downplaying the video and the clip. The other big story that is happening today that has both state and national implications in Virginia, Democrats have released the newly proposed congressional maps that they are trying to put forward ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Those maps, we're getting a first look at those maps here in the Commonwealth. They were released late last night, and it gives Democrats 4 more favorable districts, making it likely that the party can hold all but one of Virginia's 11 districts. So it would be a 10-to-1 difference by design of this. Currently, it is 6-5 in favor of Democrats here in the Commonwealth. We have a video that I would like to show you, because standing side by side with House Speaker Don Scott, Senate Pro Temp Luis Lucas, both of them, by the way, from right here in Hampton Roads, Virginia, shared remarks ahead of the releasing of these maps. I want you to listen to what they say, and then we'll provide more context after this clip.
That's not enough. So he calls North Carolina, Missouri, give me more seats. Then that's not enough. So he calls North Carolina, Missouri, Ohio. I need more. Today we are leveling the playing field. These are not ordinary times, and Virginia will not sit on the sidelines while it happens. We made a promise to level the playing field, and today we're keeping our promise. Our maps are ready. Virginia is ready. We said 10-1, and we meant it. And we are proud to deliver a map that stands up for democracy, to stand up for Virginians, to stand up and give us a voice. He started this mess, and Virginia is going to finish it.
Virginia to the rescue. Senator Lucas said it best. We've been working really hard to make sure that we got this delivered. This is about leveling the playing field across the country. Republicans are gerrymandering maps to override the will of the voters. We just saw it in Texas, North Carolina, and Missouri. At Donald Trump's direction, they're manipulating election maps because they know they can't win on their agenda in 2026. So instead of changing their ideas, they're trying to rig the system. A 10-1 map levels the playing field, and we're ready to move forward. Today we're making good on our promise by releasing the maps publicly. We're going to get them released either by the end of the day or early tomorrow. We'll get those maps released. And putting them out in the open and allowing them to be debated the way they should be in a democracy, we're going to leave it up to Virginia voters. The maps are ready. Virginia's ready. And that's my senator said it many times. 10-1. 10-1. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Before 5 o'clock?
I don't know.
So there you have it, right? Two of the most powerful lawmakers in Virginia, those Democrats, again, right here from Hampton Roads, both from Portsmouth, saying that they have reached an agreement on these maps That was before they released it. This is what those maps currently look like. You heard Lucas say that we are leveling the playing field. Certainly Republicans in Virginia don't feel that way, but here's what she's talking about. They're talking about on a national scale. This is in response to Republican-led states, including Texas, Missouri, Ohio, and North Carolina, bordering to Virginia, changing their maps in favor of Republicans in the U.S. House ahead of this year's midterms. Texas, they changed their maps to give 5 more favorable seats, Missouri 1, Ohio 2, and North Carolina 1 as well. You heard Lucas and Scott point to President Donald Trump saying that he started this, and they're speaking on the fact that the president did push for these Republican-led states to stack the maps in favor of the GOP so that they can get a bigger advantage in the U.S. House. So now you have this. Now you have Virginia joining California as Democratic states that are hoping to fight back against the GOP effort that is currently taking place. There are other states, both Republican and Democrats, at this point that are thinking about the process or have started some form of the process. They haven't gotten to this stage. Now, this week, there's a lot of legal stuff that has to go into this and other matters. The U.S. Supreme Court, in terms of California, just ruled that that state can use its maps after voters approve their referendum in November. Also this week, in Utah, state Republicans have filed a lawsuit stating that a newly imposed map in that state is illegal, even though it currently in Utah, all of the 4 U.S. House seats are Republican. But here's what happened. A judge recently ruled that a GOP-drawn map in Utah, she blocked it. That judge blocked it and instead imposed a map that would give Democrats a shot at getting 1 seat in Utah. Again, all 4 currently are for Republicans there. I mentioned those 2 legal issues because Virginia has one of its own. There's a legal battle over these maps that we just showed you, that we can bring them back up if we can on the screen there. Republicans in the state have pushed back on this effort, obviously, and a judge in Tazewell County blocked that effort just last week, saying that it is illegal because state lawmakers did not follow the law when they started this effort in October. Virginia Democrats appealed, and now it could go to the state Supreme Court. They will take up this issue. It's unclear what will happen and how they will decide. I want to show you now, before we go to break, this is what former Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares, a Republican, what he had to say. He posted this to X yesterday saying that Republicans are delivering an illegal map that the court told us we can't draw, that delivers for Democrats, not for Virginians. This is big news at both the Virginia level and the national level, and there are a lot of questions now regarding these maps and what it means moving forward. So on the other side of this break, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to bring in Dr. Eric Claville to speak on and ask some questions about what this could mean politically for the state and across the country. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. Thanks for sticking with us. As you heard on the other side of this break, Virginia Democrats reached an agreement and released newly proposed maps that would reshape the congressional districts here in the Commonwealth, giving a very, very favorable 10-to-1 advantage likely for Democrats. Joining us right now is political expert and analyst Dr. Eric Claville to talk about this moment, which has major implications for not only the Commonwealth, but also for our nation. Doc, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Eugene.
Okay, so first I want to ask you, what were your initial thoughts? I'm assuming now you've seen the maps. We knew that this was coming, but it took them a little bit longer than what they originally said it was going to take. What were your initial thoughts when you saw the map and what it could mean for lawmakers and voters here in Virginia?
Well, Eugene, as you stated, we've been discussing this and we saw it coming down the pipe. This is what I've coined as the redistricting arms race across the country. This is something that was spearheaded by the White House, more specifically by the president, specifically asking conservative states to basically redraw their maps mid-decade in order to add more Republican-held seats to keep their advantage in the midterm elections, because there was fear, and that fear is definitely warranted, that Republicans will be voted out of Congress in droves if they're not retiring or leaving, like Marjorie Taylor Greene did, and others, because of what is taking place in Washington under Republican administration. Now, when we take a look at this particular map, we knew that there was a 9-2 or 10-1 that was going to happen, and we see 10-1. When looking at the map, I was up late when it first came live, and I was like, okay, this looks like a map that definitely could stand constitutional muster, and it looks as if that if the voters vote for this constitutional amendment, I want to talk more about that because that's very important as it relates to this specific map. But if they approve it, then this is the slate of candidates that we'll have to run in this midterm election coming up in November.
Let's talk about this amendment, right? So there are a lot of steps that have to take place. We were talking on the other side. I mentioned there's the legal process. There's a legal battle going on with this while we're still looking at a timeline for a possible referendum to get ahead of voters. Break down how those two things possibly intertwine between the Supreme Court and it actually getting to voters. Could there be any issues with that?
Sure. So let's take a look first at the process here in the Commonwealth of Virginia in order to get a constitutional amendment across the finish line. Then we'll take a look at the now judicial challenge that has started here just last month, and then where we're looking moving forward. So as it relates to a constitutional amendment, here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, an amendment has to be voted on and pass the General Assembly twice in consecutive sessions in order for it to be placed on the ballot to allow voters of the Commonwealth in order to determine whether they want to adopt that amendment or not. The Democratic-controlled General Assembly just this session, on the first day of session, actually passed 4 constitutional amendments that will go on the November ballot, except for one, and that is the congressional map amendment. That will go on a special referendum, which will be held in, I want to say, April. Now, in the event that it does go over and basically passes the judicial challenge, which was raised by Republicans, where a conservative-leaning court on the district level ruled that this map, or not so much the map, but it was actually a process. It was ruled on a process that the Democrats did not follow the proper process in order to approve this proposed amendment twice, which, of course, they approved it last year during a quote-unquote special session, but actually session was held open. It was never dismissed. And then here in this session, it was voted on again. So therefore, you're looking at about a 4 or 5 month time period in which this particular amendment was voted on and now being put up for a special election in April. Now, this has been appealed by Democrats, And in the event that it is upheld, which more than likely, from a legal standpoint, it will not be upheld, but more so overruled on the district level, and I believe it will proceed to a constitutional amendment, then voters will have an opportunity in April in order to vote to determine whether this congressional map will be a part of our Constitution and allow these maps to be redrawn for this purpose. Now, Eugene, when we talk about this amendment, now I want to keep in mind that this is a specific amendment with some triggers in there. What do I mean by that? If you take a look at the legislation, this legislation allows for the General Assembly to redraw maps mid-decade, right? As opposed to at the end of every decade. In the event that other states approve and redraw their lines, which will cause an imbalance in congressional representation in Washington. It allows the General Assembly to redraw districts. However, these lines will no more be valid until the end of the decade. So in 2030, it will go back to the process that Virginia's adopted, which is the commission, in order to redraw the lines. Now, the commission may say, after they take a look at the U.S. Census report, that these lines or maybe configure the lines slightly, where it still will give the Democrats a 10-1 advantage. But we'll wait and see. But I want to make sure that our listeners understand that these are not permanent redrawn lines, that it will go back to the commission in 2030 for them to redraw them and have them approved by the state Supreme Court, which is the process that the voters of Virginia chose in the last constitutional amendment. And then we will have a new slate of candidates running in those districts in 2030. But again, this is very narrow. It will only be enforceable until for 2 congressional terms in the House, which is from 2026 to 2030.
Which will be very interesting once we get to 2030 to see that switch off or what happens in between there as well. I want to tell you this. Our sister station in Washington, D.C., WUSA, they reported yesterday that the Spanberger team says Virginia redistricting map can be implemented before the referendum begins. Do you have any idea what they could mean by that?
Well, I would have to take a closer look at where they're looking at. I'm speaking more specifically as it relates to the General Assembly process, of course, the judicial process itself, and hoping Democrats are hoping that it will basically overcome that, which I believe that they will. And then it goes to the referendum for the voters. However, if the Spanberger administration is saying that this map can be enforced now, because the General Assembly passed it, then individuals can start to determine if they're going to run. But once again, this map has to be approved by the voters. That's the way Virginia works.
And I know we're expecting to now hear from the Supreme Court, and for the Virginia Supreme Court. So what happens? Is there even precedent if the Supreme Court makes a decision maybe against this prior to that April referendum, which we believe will be the date? Or do we see a scenario where the Supreme Court here in Virginia won't make a decision until after that date? Kind of walk us through the possibilities there with each scenario. And again, is there any precedent for all of this?
Well, I first start with whether the Supreme Court will hear it after or before the actual date. They will hear it before. This is there are issues that are very timely in which the highest court of the land and any court will rush to the top of their docket. If you remember, I remember the Haiti chat in South Florida. That had to be determined literally, in less than 24 hours after the process is run a course. And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on it, and basically we had President George W. Bush for 2 terms, with 1 vote on the Supreme Court ending that particular recount. Now, as it relates to precedents, we haven't seen this before. Again, I think it's good that our listeners understand that. This is unprecedented. However, we do have guidance. Now, again, the authority of other states for state law is not controlling authority, but it is advisory, right? So therefore, Virginia is not bound. I heard you mention, discuss two states prior, one being Utah. The state Supreme Court or courts in Virginia are not bound by other states' precedent. However, it can be a guide. And what we're seeing across the country, again, California, Texas, Florida, Missouri, you mentioned Utah, and there are a list of other states that are pending these changes as well. This is something that if it goes, I believe, if we look at state process and states' rights, I believe that the state Supreme Court will more so look at the process in which our General Assembly went through to get this done. However, these cases are not decided in a vacuum. In other words, they watch the news as well. The justices on the Supreme Court, state Supreme Court, they know what's happening in their community. They're across the street from the General Assembly. They understand what's happening. So this case will not be ruled in a vacuum. And I believe that all factors, both national, political, and legislative factors, along with our Virginia process, will be taken into consideration. So I do believe the Supreme Court will hear this before the April referendum proposed. And I do believe they will take all factors into accountability and basically ruling up on whether the General Assembly followed the state process here in the Commonwealth. And if they did so, I believe that the court approved it.
Now, you said you were up last night looking at the map, and we already kind of assumed prior to this coming out that the 2nd District here in Virginia, which is currently held by Jen Kiggans, a Republican, was going to be one of the ones that would be touched within this congressional redistricting. When you looked at it, did anything stand out to you? Obviously, that district, we knew that was going to be, changed to a degree. Are there any other areas, maybe here in Hampton Roads, that were or were not altered to the degree that you thought they were, or at all?
No, absolutely. Congressional District 8 and 1. We knew that, of course, Rob Whitman is representing Congressional District 1. We knew that that district would also be pretty much eliminated as relates to it being leaning one way or the other. And Congressional District 8, if you look at the old map, and of course, VPAP, they're doing a deep dive to overlay the current map with the new map here, the new proposed map. And I think, again, wording is very important because now there's a battle of wording on the heel with affordability and tax hikes, right? So this proposed new map that is approved by the General Assembly now, as we see it, and how it actually will basically impact the voting. Now, of course, the only Republican-leaning district, which is Southwest Virginia, of course, that's it involves a little bit more of the area there. However, it's still representing quite a bit of the original area. Now, when we take a look at Congressional District 4 as well, the district that's represented by the only and the first African-American woman in the congressional delegation here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's also encompassing more here in the Hampton Roads area as well, also going west. But again, I believe that Congressional District 2, which is currently held by Jen Kiggans, which is a purple district, and that district has flipped more in Congress than any other district in the country. Right, because we remember Elaine Luria, former Congresswoman, has launched her reelection bid for the district that she held just 2 election cycles ago. So again, this district flips quite a bit. And given the policies of the White House and how has it impacted veterans and Department of Defense and our military here, I believe that Elaine Luria that district could flip again, and a Democrat could win that district without the district, being redrawn. So, right now, when we take a look at what's happening here in the country, a lot of things are unprecedented because of how the White House is moving and enacting their agenda and their policy, even using laws that are what we consider archaic, back in the 18 to 1700s in order to get things across the board for their purposes. So nothing is off the table. Nothing is off the table here as relates to what is happening in our federal government. But one thing about it, and one thing that can equalize anything that happens on a local, state, or federal level, and that's voting. One person, one vote changes everything, and your vote does matter. So when our listeners see these particular shows and listen to the information that's coming, and maybe have some trepidation about how their community, their city, their commonwealth, their country is going, just know that you can change things by simply galvanizing your friends, your family, and getting out and simply voting.
Dr. Claville, I want to ask you, we're seeing okay, before I say this, redistricting, redrawing maps, that's something that we've seen for a long time. I can't recall a concerted effort amongst states that are battling against each other, changing their maps for the sake of what happens in Washington, D.C. What precedent are we setting politically in our nation when we are now, this box is open. So what precedent are we setting for our politics and also for our democracy, as now we see this is the latest kind of ball to drop?
Eugene, I think it's very dangerous, what we are seeing. Within our government, we have something in various different branches. We have, of course, the executive branch, which is the head of it, which is the president of the United States, whomever the president is duly elected by the people. We also have the legislative branch, which involves two houses, the House of Representatives and also the U.S. Senate, which makes up our Congress. And then we have our judicial branch, which is the head of that court is our U.S. Supreme Court and other courts of appeals and district courts, courts of first instance. But one thing about our triangle of government is our checks and balances. And that's one thing that we're missing. The Republicans actually hold all three branches convincingly. Of course, there's a thin margin in the House of Representatives in Congress and also Senate. However, they still hold it. And without checks, you cannot balance one side against the other. That's why those three branches were considered to be independent. And the problem that we have now, or what we see, the trepidation that we have, is that those three branches are now being dictated by one person and one branch to create policies that are unchecked, which creates an imbalance in our democracy across the board. So, well, what I would say, and I've spoken about this on my radio shows, which air every Sunday, at 10 and 12:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. On WNSB Hot 91 Solar VA. We are watching now our country and our democracy being questioned, not just domestically, but across the world. When you have the Canadian Prime Minister say out loud, can we trust the United States, and is China a better partner than the U.S.? You know that we've reached a point of inflection where we have to take a look at what we're doing, and more specifically, what we're not doing. And it's up to our duly elected officials in order to stand and actually raise a vote that would actually check another branch of government on their policies that are not in favor of not just our communities, but also our country, and ensure that their balance is restored to our democracy, because the United States, as the hegemony and also the leading free nation of the world, everyone's looking at us. Everyone is depending upon us. But when we put that in jeopardy, we put other nations in jeopardy as well.
Do you think there's any possibility that we'd be able to put this back in the bottle at some point, or has the impact already been done?
I believe that there has been some form of damage, hands down. When you have nations, NATO being railroaded, and the way that our president basically lectured, our NATO partners, our NATO brothers, and especially our NATO mother, Great Britain. We are a product of that country. When they're sitting there crossing their arms and wincing and really sitting there asking themselves, where are we now? Can we depend upon the United States? It becomes a problem. And with that, there is some permanent damage that has been done. However, I don't believe that we've gone too far where we can't turn the ship back around. But it has to start first with our midterm elections, House Representatives being able to check and bring balance back to the policies coming out of the White House, and also the Supreme Court really ruling on independent political theory and fray, and really looking at the law, legally ruling on various decisions. We haven't really had too many come out the Supreme Court just yet, but we're going to see a lot of those very soon. And of course, there have been challenges to various policies by this administration on the district and appellate court level. So we will see. However, once again, I believe that there has been some damage done, but I don't think we've gone too far to where we cannot turn the ship around. However, like anything, the clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking. Again, Dr. Eric LaVille, again, taking time to talk to us about this. Only have a few more questions for you. But just to be clear, you believe that these new maps that have been proposed here in Virginia, you think they're going to be able to beat the clock, and it's going to be what voters will vote on, maybe not in terms of, let me rephrase this question. They're going to make it in time for the referendum, is what you're expecting.
Yes, I do believe so. I can't see the court not ruling on this, because it is not just a political issue and legislative issue, but it is a politics issue as it relates to the people. So again, I believe they're going to look at all factors, external factors, and not just the law here in the Commonwealth, but they're going to look at it globally and make a decision to take this up on the docket ASAP.
Now, I want to ask you a separate question, not connected to this. And this is, forgive me, this wasn't necessarily what we were planned on talking about, but it dropped this morning right before the stream. I don't know if you've seen the video that's been circulated by President Trump. We talked about at the top of the stream, that depicts former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama, a clip of it with them on the bodies of apes. I wanted to just kind of get your thoughts and response to that. The White House is downplaying this in the moment. But for you, you're a political expert, an educator, also, working with an HBCU and a historically black college and university here in Virginia. What's your direct response and reaction to seeing that, and also for the White House seemingly downplaying it as relevant or important?
Sure. One word really comes to mind, and again, this is my reaction as an African American. As you stated, HBCU educated, and that's where I also have the pleasure and opportunity and fortunate enough to work as well. But I just think it's one word: disgusting. Of course, we know what it is. We know what this administration is about. Again, you mentioned it before in your show. This is the same president that rode the birther movement into the White House in the first term. We see the policies out of the White House of ICE, which are targeting specifically Black and brown people, Hispanic people, stopping them, asking them, are you legal? And these are individuals, a lot of them, the vast majority of them have been in this country and have been legal. As African Americans, our time period of coming to this country, of course, we know it started in 1619, and with the transatlantic slave trade didn't end until the 1800s. So most African Americans, if not all African Americans have been in this country longer than most white Americans who can trace their lineage back to Ellis Island and the immigration push in the early 1900s, late 1800s to 1900s into New York. So, again, it is disgusting, but this president doesn't make mistakes as relates to his intent, as relates to his speeches and policies. Just when he made the statement about the tax hikes that are being framed by the Republicans, which they're not tax hikes, because bills that are put up have to become law, and none of those bills for taxes, tax proposals, have become law. So there are no tax hikes. But instead of saying that the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, he said this woman, and we of course know that that is a also dog whistle and demeaning term when you speak about women, especially women in power. So, it unfortunately it is what it is. But one thing that we cannot ignore is the truth, and we should always speak the truth and call a thing, call it as it is, and let the individual make the decision themselves. But that's my personal view. I believe that it is disgusting, especially on Black History Month. But again, this president knows what he's doing, and this is our president. But in order to bring balance back, we need our duly elected officials, our media, to again speak truth and allow our listeners and voters to make the decision.
Dr. Eric LaVille, thank you. I just wanted to ask you that, again, you heard me talk about it. I saw it right before our stream came up and knew that I couldn't ignore it, had to discuss it. So thank you so much for breaking down the latest when it comes to the Virginia Democrats releasing their new proposed maps. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about here in the coming weeks, and we'll bring you back to do so. As always, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciated that discussion with him. We're going to take a quick break here, and on the other side, we got to talk about weather, because if you thought it was cold, it's about to get even colder. We're going to talk about that on the other side of this break. Thanks for joining us here for Live Impact News. Thank you for sticking with us here for Live Impact News. Stick with us. We are going to have more on your forecast in a few minutes because it's going to get really cold this weekend. We'll have meteorologist Taylor Stephenson in a bit. But first, we're excited to have a guest in to talk about tax season because it is here and there are some changes that you can expect, particularly after President Trump signed the tax and spending bill into law last year in July. Joining us today to talk about some of the things you might be able to experience and expect is LaMichelle Hecht, CPA, audit and tax specialist, author, and speaker. And as I said, apparent Wonder Woman. She has a lot of things under her belt, but today we're focusing on taxes. LaMichelle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So the first question I want to ask you, for those who aren't aware of the impact that the bill could have, filing taxes just for individuals, what are some of the changes they could expect to see?
I would say one of the biggest change is the state and local taxes, where in the past you could only take up to $10,000. And by those taxes, it means taxes you pay on your car, taxes you pay on your income to the state of Virginia, taxes you pay on your home, real estate taxes. The cap was $10,000, the total of all taxes. It is now moved up to $40,000. That is a significant increase. So if you didn't hit the threshold to hit an itemized deduction in the past, this may be the first year that you can actually get over that threshold without even owning a home.
And so that's for individuals. What about small businesses?
So for small business, something great is going on, 100% depreciation, which is something that was not there in the past. So in the past, you could get partial, you can get double, but not 100%. And now they're extending that. So if you got any qualified property or equipment, you can deduct it 100% instead of spreading it over 5, 10, 15, 20 years on your tax return.
Now, for my pocketbooks, can you kind of break down what that means? I mean, you're talking about individual and for those small businesses. What does that mean in terms of what we could potentially either get back or keep?
That means when you're working with your tax professional, make sure you give them all the information, right? Specifically for the equipment and items you purchased. Make sure you also give them the information on your home. Just because you haven't given them those information in prior years because you didn't qualify, tell them how much taxes you paid on your car because you may be able to claim it this year with the new tax law.
And so direct file, we know that there's, if your people are not necessarily going to be using it, how can filers prepare for tax season without it this year?
Yeah, so direct file is when you can file directly without another software for free, and that is going to change. So instead of doing that, you have other ways you can go about it. You can look at the IRS website and see what are the approved softwares you can use to file your taxes, but you could also go to a professional. But I do want everyone to know direct file is only for your federal taxes. So if you're in the state, for example, the state of Virginia, you still need to file the same way you were in the past with the state.
Now, we've done a lot of reporting, and it's been out there that obviously there have been federal cuts. We know the IRS is of those that's been experiencing that over the last year. How could this potentially impact returns and taxes this season?
I would say it could impact a few things. It may cause a delay. I would say lots of times when people file online, you probably won't get a delay because a lot of that is graded through a computer and done through an automated system. If you're in a situation where someone passed away and you have to mail in the return, you could cause delays that way. But another thing I want people to keep in mind is just because there are less staff doesn't mean you have to do less compliance. It may, instead of them maybe taking this much time to find you, they may take a little bit more time, but they will find you. So I would say let's not use this time as a way to not stay in compliance what we need to do because they tend to always get back to you eventually.
No matter how long it takes,
yes,
they will find you and they will check that information. Okay, a lot of people, you've been giving some great, thank you so much for being here, by the way. You've been giving some great tips. Is there anything else that you would tell people to best prepare ahead of filing this year that may be different from past years?
Yes, another thing I want people to think about is people who work overtime and tips and things like that. Lots of times there are new tax changes with that, and a lot of payroll processing systems are not breaking it out in your W-2. So make sure you get your wage statements from the system so you can break out what is that type of income so you can get those tax savings on overtime and tips, because it's not always going to be something super easy you can pull out of a W-2.
Now, you've been doing this for a while, and I know we're talking about some of the changes this year and how people can, prepare for that. You've been giving great tips for that. But just let's think any year now. What are some of the most common questions that people bring to you and issues that they run into when they're trying to file their taxes or get everything together?
I think the number one thing people want to know is how could they not pay taxes? I think that's the biggest one. But I would say, to me, the easiest way to avoid taxes is use things that are already there for you. So, for example, an FSA, that's a flexible spending account, or HSA. You can save money on that. And that includes things people buy every day. For example, the glasses I have on, toothpaste. You could save taxes by buying those items by simply using the products offered by most employers, and also you can have those products within your own business. That would be one of the big tips I think a lot of people don't think about that I like to bring to their attention, that you don't always have to have a catastrophic health issue to need an FSA or HSA. You can use it for everyday products.
And I just learned something for myself. I did not know that, and I use toothpaste every day. Every single day, twice a day, to be honest with you, I'm using it. That is
I
something
hope so.
new. And floss. I promise I do. What are some of the problems that people face? I mean, you talked about the question, how can I save money? But what are some of the common issues that you often see that you're having to help people through?
I would say the biggest issue I see is non-compliance and not having everything together to give to me. So sometimes they get letters, not just me, other professionals they use, or if they did it themselves, and they're getting letters in the future from the IRS. And when the IRS mails you, they're going to have interest, penalties, everything. So I would say the biggest thing is making sure you're organized. Every document you get, keep. And you could even log in on the IRS website and pull your own info, with your social security number and stuff, so you know what information they have, to make sure maybe it's not something out there that you didn't receive in the mail or that you didn't get an email about that the IRS could have, to make sure all of your information is accurate. Because no matter what you say, they're always going to cross-reference it to what they have on file. And if it's not the same, if they owe you a refund, they may not reach out. But if it's not the same and you owe them money, they will reach out. So I would say get ahead of it. Make sure you have all your ducks in a row. And you may not even owe them money. It may be something where it's a mistake and we can fix that. But I think that's the biggest thing, is really having all your documents, especially in a digital world where sometimes you don't get an email, you don't get something in the mail. It may just be in a portal somewhere and you don't even think to look for it.
That was going to be my follow-up question, because I remember my parents having all of these papers and papers and papers. I just don't have time for it. And you think about, we're in this digital age. Do you have any suggestion in your expertise on the best way to catalog that information, to keep it together? Because we know sometimes it can. I mean, and then how far back should I keep the paperwork?
I would say a minimum 7 years, because that's the statute of limitations. But also, I'm going to start with small businesses and nonprofits. The best way is, I would say, use an accounting software. Do not do it in Excel. Do not do it by hand. Pay the money to use the software. It is worth it. And in all cloud-based softwares, you can attach every receipt, every invoice in the software. I think that's the easiest way. And even some of them, you could take a picture of the receipt in real time and have it attach it. I think that's the way you can do it to keep all your documents. And for individuals, I kind of believe the same thing. Have a folder on your computer, keep all the documents there. And on the IRS website, if you set up an IRS account, once all the documents are sent to the IRS, all of your stuff is in one place in the IRS website. So you can log in, at least as a business, not always, because they don't have all of your expenses and things. But as an individual, you can log into the IRS website and pull all of your W-2s, your 1099s, your 1098s, etc. in one place.
All right, these are some great tips. Hopefully people are learning from them. We have La Michelle Hecht, who is a CPA, audit, and tax specialist. Any last suggestions you would have for people as they are getting their things together to file for this year?
Yes. My one last suggestion is, don't forget about charity. Sometimes we donate $1 here, $1 there. Those things can add up. Make sure you have that information together. because of the tax changes, you may be able to claim charity this year if you didn't hit the threshold in prior years.
Good stuff there. Thank you so much for stopping by and talking with us today. And I certainly hope that somebody out there watched this and you were able to learn. And if someone wants to get in touch with you, maybe they need some help and assistance, LaMichelle, how can they do that?
I can be found on all social medias under Overhead Solutions Group, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, etc. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is LaMichelle Hecht, CPA, MBA. Send me a request. I will accept.
All right. You got it there. Reach out. I hope they reach out to you for sure. In doing so, thank you so much, LaMichelle, for being here. And I'm sure this is a busy season for you, too, with it being tax season. So we appreciate you carving out the time and joining us. All right, we're going to take another quick break, but we'll be right back with more Live Impact News. All right, welcome back here for Live Impact News. It was great to have the guest in talking about tax preparation, some of the changes you can see, and some of the things you should probably do if you're going to be filing here soon. But now let's talk about this weather. You guys, it has been cold, it has been cold, it has been cold. And guess what? It is going to continue to be cold, but we got meteorologist Taylor Stephenson in with us. And Taylor, I hear it's going to be colder.
Yes, this weekend is going to be brutal. And it's so ironic that we finally have a weekend where we're not tracking winter weather, and it's probably going to be a brutally cold weekend. All of Eugene's outside plans, you just see, they just like deteriorating.
I got on this here stream and said, I'm going to be outside. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but not anymore.
I was thinking the same thing. It's Super Bowl weekend. There's a lot to do in Hampton Roads this weekend. But if you're going to be outside, just dress for if it was actually feeling like more like 5 degrees in Hampton Roads. So here's what we're tracking here with the 13 News Now weather team. We have a clipper system coming through tomorrow, and really we're going to start to feel the effects of it starting tonight. And we'll see a few flurries come through here in Hampton Roads. And I'm going to change this over real quick to say tonight. Because a lot of these effects will happen tonight, and we will see some of those flakes still flying in some areas on Saturday morning. Now, let me give you the update on this as my Mac system decides to crash on me. Let's see if it works. There we go. So let's go ahead and take this graphic again. So we're going to expect a few flakes through the night tonight and tomorrow morning. We have this clipper system coming through, and this system will be the reason why we get this big push of cold air. So again, just like we've seen kind of the past week or two, we have snowflakes, but not really much in the way of accumulation. Most models may be bringing a dusting, if that, to Hampton Roads. So don't expect this to be one of those systems that may have snow sticking around through early next week, causing you to maybe not have school. That's not the case with this. And of course, as we've mentioned, we have had such bad model consistency over the past week or two. So again, just know a few flakes are possible as we go ahead through today. Now, if we can go ahead and take this full, that would be great real quick. And we'll see later on behind this system, gusty winds and bitterly cold this weekend. And that is going to be the main story and why we've issued a weather impact alert for Saturday into Sunday morning. We're going to see temperatures, though, next week starting to climb back closer to normal after we've had some really brutally cold days over the past, 2-3 weeks?
Yes.
So, thank you, resident meteorologist. Yes.
Yes.
So, expect extreme cold. We do have a weather impact alert in effect for all day Saturday and then lingering into Sunday morning. That's February 7th and the 8th. Again, extremely cold, enough to issue an extreme cold watch from the Weather Service, most likely to be upgraded to an extreme cold warning by later on this afternoon and evening. Here's 2 reasons why it's going to be so brutally cold. Wind chills take into account the actual air temperature and the winds. We're going to see wind gusts as high as about 50 miles per hour, some areas 55 to 60 miles per hour during the weekend, where we do have wind advisories and high wind warnings in place for the area already. You add on to the fact that this clipper system coming through tonight is going to bring us some colder air that is going to only exacerbate how cold it feels. So single-digit wind chills possible throughout the day on Saturday, and then early Sunday morning feels like temperatures feeling more like below 0. So what you need to do is bundle up. I would even recommend, this is one of the weekends where you may be able to open up your window, the blinds, to get some sunlight, but it's probably best to stay inside if you can. Also during this time, make sure that you check in on your vulnerable people, making sure that they have some place to go. lead them to warming centers. Your pets, they feel the effects of the cold as well, so making sure that they're indoors, and vulnerable plants need to be brought inside if they're potted. Now here's a live look from our satellite and radar, and if we can also take this full just so I can show you a few things around here with this satellite and radar for us. So satellite and radar for us is showing that there are a few snowflakes flying around this upper level system, and you can see this upper level system in the black dotted line. Here are the snowflakes now flying through Kentucky and West Virginia. We're going to zoom out even more, and you can see that this is the Clipper system up here in two parts of the Great Lakes region where those low pressure systems are. Dotted line is an upper level system. Right now here in Hampton Roads, we are extremely quiet, just a few of those clouds just across the area. But again, we may see some of the snowfall that's there, and I'm going to try to zoom in here. There in West Virginia and through Kentucky, starting to make its way through southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. So here's a look at the Clipper system coming through later on today. Futurecast shows that we're going to have a dry rest of your morning. Temperatures, it's cool outside. I would say it's cold, but honestly, in comparison to some of the days we had in the 20s, I'll take a day in the mid to upper 30s and lower 40s. We're going to make it to the lower 40s today, still about 10 degrees below normal, but at least it's not going to be brutally cold. But you can see the snow starting to build in places like central Virginia. We get into this evening, and that's when our radar starts to light up just a little bit, and you're going to start to see the snowflakes flying. Now, again, we are not expecting big accumulations with this. This is not going to be a winter storm-esque day. This is just, we have snowflakes in the area, nothing to really be too hype about. To the south, this is going to be more of your rain snow mix. So the further south you live, the kind of on the cusp of seeing those snowflakes, and then that falls apart by midnight tonight, leaving us with a cold night, but another round of a few flurries possible early Saturday morning. So we're not out of the clear when it comes to seeing snowflakes fly. When we kind of end this day, it really lingers into Saturday morning and then falls apart and moves to the southeast by the afternoon on by the late morning on Saturday. Now, here's a look. I'm going to stop this futurecast here because the most important part is talking about how cold it's going to feel. But I want to show you that we have these really strong northwest winds, and temperatures in the morning will be in the upper 20s, and wind gusts at 9 a.m. could be as high as 40 miles per hour. So it could be a very chilly morning. So here's a look going through Saturday morning, right around that time. So temperatures are in the upper 20s. Wind gusts are around 40 miles per hour. It's going to feel more like 8 below zero in Chincoteague by the time we get to around 9 a.m. tomorrow. 3 degrees as it feels like temperature in Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach. Down around the Albemarle feels like temperature still below 10 degrees. So the further north you go in this situation, the colder it's going to feel. Places like Newport News, Williamsburg feeling more like 0 to 2 degrees by 9 a.m. Let's walk you going ahead through about noon. At noon, still really windy again, but maybe feeling a bit better, but not by much. Still feeling like below zero in places around the peninsulas. You get to the south side, still feeling like the single digits. It's North Carolina where we could see some, feels like temperatures in the teens. Either way, super chilly. Through the afternoon, feels like temperatures may get to, at best, right around 10 to 12 degrees. And around the south side, maybe inland, feeling more like 13 to 15 degrees. And then you still around the peninsulas, places like Chincoteague may not get above freezing for those feels like temperatures all day long. So it would be a very cold afternoon for us. And then we get into the evening time and temperatures drop even further. That's why we've issued that weather impact alert and extended it through Saturday night into Sunday morning, where you see the feels like temperature in Norfolk around midnight to 1. Yeah.
I'm not even trying to interrupt you. That just looks terrible. You were going along and all the and I looked at the graphic and I said -1.
Yeah. I'm just here to deliver information. Do with it what you will. There will be probably some people who still try to venture outside. I will not be one of those people. If you do not know, both Eugene and I are from the Deep South. And this is, you stay at home bundled in about a comforter, a blanket, a sheet, and maybe even the heat on. In this sense,
cold might as well be blind because it won't see me.
It will not see us.
See
Okay, I'm in that wagon too. I will be in my
Sarah,
bed.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. It's brutal.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Taylor, I'm sorry. Keep going.
No,
Keep
it's
going.
okay. It's okay. These are valid feelings.
Yeah.
I will never gaslight you into believing that your feelings are not valid in a case like this, because as I feel like as news people, we try to keep a very narrow path when it comes to our emotions. You can get emotional over weather like this. I will grant this in this case.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the graphic. It just hit me, and I said, "Oh my God." I knew this. I already knew this information, and I saw the graphic, and I said, "Oh, keep going, man."
It's okay.
Keep
It's
going,
all right.
keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and get through this, because I know this is paining Eugene to make me. I'm gonna take it a little bit faster. Okay. So we go through Sunday morning, and you can see that it feels like 1 below 0 in Norfolk. This is around 4 to 5 a.m. Still feeling like below 0 around the eastern shore. Same for the peninsulas. So it's going to be a very, very cold morning. And that leads us through about 8 a.m. on Sunday, where you can see that it still feels like the single digits or below 0. So again, this is one of those weekends where even though it's going to look fantastic outside, finally, after seeing winter weather for the past couple of weekends, it's not a weekend that I would even say, hey, enjoy your time outside, because it's probably best that you limit time outdoors in this situation, just because getting frostbite and hypothermia are only accelerated in these really brutal conditions. So I know that I know I'm probably lost some people, and they probably lost hope, and that's okay. And that's all right. Let me give you a little bit more positive news, okay? So this weekend, temperatures at best in the upper 20s. It's going to be very chilly. That's going to be about 25 degrees below normal for this time of year. But by Wednesday, we should finally push closer to 50. And we haven't seen the 50s in quite some time. And our average high temperature this time of year is 52 degrees. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but slowly temperatures are creeping up. So we've already hit our lowest point of an average of 50 degrees in the middle of January. So now that we're in the early parts of February, temperatures will start to go up. So hopefully our temperature trend starts to continue heading in the right direction, where we should see some lower 50s by the middle of next week. But it still seems like most days, if not all, should be below normal for this time of year. So very, very chilly conditions over the next 10 days. And that does lead us Saturday, Sunday next Saturday and Sunday, that is Valentine's weekend. So for those who may have plans, expect for a cooler than normal weekend, but it seems like so far it shouldn't be brutally cold for shedding some love on, sharing the love with your loved ones. So that's what I have for you today. Just make sure that you are bundled up. Again, extreme cold watch in effect, and that is because it feels like temperatures will be near 0 most of the day on Saturday through Sunday morning. So please, again, make sure to bundle up if you're heading outdoors. Make sure to check on your vulnerable people, that your loved ones. And for those you may be houseless or homeless, make sure that they also have the resources to know where warming centers are. Your pets, again, they feel the cold, so bring them inside, give them some cuddles, and of course your plants that are potted that can be removed from outdoors, I would bring them inside, because this is brutally cold, not only because of the actual temperatures, but because it's going to be windy, wind gusts as high as about 50 miles per hour plus.
Cuddle the pets, cuddle me, somebody. I mean, my
Lord.
goodness, with this. With Sarah, did you hear her? She said it was going to feel like -1 in Virginia Beach. Sarah's unbothered.
I'm dissociating. I heard.
And okay, I'm going to reel it in and be a little bit more serious, because here's the thing. It is very important that people do keep themselves warm as best as possible because of the things that you just said that are real. Hypothermia is real. It is a real thing, and we've seen people who have, unfortunately, across the country in this winter sweep, who have been severely affected or unfortunately died. That's not me trying to sound an alarm for folks. I'm just saying, make sure that you're properly, you have on the proper attire when you're going out, for these next weeks. Listen, I'm from the Deep South with you, but I have lived in a place for almost a decade where these type of temperatures happen very frequently, all right, being in the Midwest. So there are people across the country who live in this all the time. One of the key things they do, and they taught me real quick, is how to dress for it. And that is what you have to do. And there's a reason for it, right? You just want to make sure that you are well protected. To piggyback on your point, too, about those who are houseless, there are several cities that have services for people, too. They want to make sure that, like I think of Virginia Beach, for instance, call into the city. They have different resources. There have been churches that have worked together here in Norfolk as well to make sure people have resources. If you know someone who is houseless, a family member, please make sure that those resources are available. We have past stories on our website, 13newsnow.com, that will list those as well. So nothing to play around with. I'm not trying to make it a joking matter, even though my personal feelings in the matter clearly were a little hurt seeing that. But I'm excited to hear that next weekend, Taylor, you're saying it shouldn't be, not like this as much, especially in time for Valentine's Day. Still, relatively not warm, but decently for a winter day.
Yeah, I mean, for winter, I'll take mid-40s. I would prefer if we could be near normal in the 50s. But if we can, I would take 40s over 20s any day. So hopefully, and again, this is a 10-day forecast, so things are bound to change. So definitely stay tuned for that Valentine's Day forecast that will start showing on our 7-day forecast starting on Sunday.
Yeah, and you know what? If we try to complain, we can always think what it is in Cincinnati right now. Can we pull this up? The snowfall in Cincinnati, Ohio. Take that. Look, we're not that. We are not that.
We're not that, but they're used to it.
It's pretty. It is pretty.
It's pretty. But you can see that they're used to. Look how the roads are already super clear. Yeah, they're used to it.
And everything else is just white. So it is beautiful. It is great to look at. Not something I necessarily want to feel and touch on my own. All right, Taylor, anything else you want the folks to know? And if not, that's okay.
No, I think that's about it. Just, bundle up, enjoy the weekend where you don't have to stress about winter weather. I guess it's more for me than than the rest of you. But it's gonna be a sunny, brutally cold weekend. So just make sure you protect yourself and your loved ones.
And while Taylor is here, two things. One, yesterday was National Weather Person Day.
It was.
Round of applause for our resident here, meteorologist extraordinaire in Taylor. So shout out to you. I know this last 3 weeks, man, the work that you guys have done and is truly commendable. Because it was a lot. It was a major effort. 3 completely different systems that were bringing in the snow. There's a lot. So I just want to give you your props.
Thank you.
I also, since I have you here dressed in the red with the pin. Today is Go Red for Women Day with the American Heart Association. That's why a lot of us are wearing red. I typically wear red on Friday. We do to remember and to honor our troops. But today we're also doing it in support of Go Red for Women. And Taylor, I saw your pen over there. I know you were you got the pen on. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Because didn't you recently you were able to attend like a luncheon with other women with the American Heart Association with an effort like this?
Yeah, so there's a Women in Media luncheon that happens every year, and so I'm honored to attend it. There's a few of us there from 13 News Now. Anchor Janet Roach was there. Anchor Dana Smith was there. And so there was a few of us from 13 News Now who attended this luncheon. And basically at the luncheon, we talk about how women's the number one cause of death for women is heart-related illnesses. And so we talked about how stress can be an inducing factor for leading to the acceleration of those heart diseases. And you know, just how you live your daily life, how you eat, how you exercise, can also play a role. But sometimes you know, you can be the healthiest person in the room and still have health issues. So we just talked about how to manage stress and kind of take away the factors that we can control in those situations, especially as women who work in a very high stress environment. And one thing that really resonated with me, that I'll talk about from the luncheon, is that as a meteorologist, there are only about 30% of all broadcast meteorologists who are women. And on my team specifically, I'm the only woman and only person of color. And in an environment like the news, it can create a very stressful environment for women and people of color. And so that really resonated with me because, I mean, I feel like I do feel that stress sometimes, but it's learning about how to manage it. And so that's why when people always say, Taylor, you're always on vacation, Taylor, you're always out of town, it's because I really, truly value a work-life balance that keeps me grounded and that helps to relieve my stress.
And for those of you who do not know, we stand 10 toes down behind
Okay.
Taylor Stephenson.
You better let him know. Block it.
Absolutely. And I just not only appreciate you, admire you so much.
Thank you.
And again, I know these last few weeks have definitely stretched a lot of us, but no more than your team and particularly you for some things that you've also encountered here recently. So thank you for saying that. We support you. We're so proud of you. Thankful to work with you.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think that's a good place to go ahead and take a break. How about that?
I think so too.
We'll transition on out. We'll be back in just a few moments. Thank you for sticking with us here for Live Impact News. You know, we were just talking with meteorologist Taylor Stephenson about the American Heart Association, and today being National Wear Red Day. And on the phone with me right now is the executive director of the American Heart Association, Hampton Roads, Jalen Brown, here to talk about the importance of this day, why you go out, you will see so many people wearing red, and why you should do it yourself. Jalen, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start off with this. We were talking about heart health and how big of a factor it is, particularly for women. Can you share with our viewers how big of an issue heart disease is within our communities and why this initiative is so important today?
Of course. I think to make it as plain and simple, it is important to know that 1 in 3 women will die of cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer nationwide of men and women, but that 1 in 3 number is really important to remember because it could be your mom, your sister, your aunt. So it's important that we recognize what an impact this disease has on our community and the women we know and love.
When you have conversations with people, you know, I have done a few different events with you, right? And I'm always fascinated by the information that people receive, but also by the questions that they seem to have. What are some of the most frequent questions that you receive, that your team receives, that, you know, have to deal with this topic that you're like, oh, people really don't know this information?
Absolutely. I think there are quite a few questions. Sometimes they don't recognize the correlation between stroke and cardiovascular health as well. So it's important to know that stroke is the #4 killer nationwide, and the American Stroke Association is a division of the American Heart Association, which is why we talk about the two collaboratively so often, but also the difference between a heart attack and a sudden cardiac arrest. One is more of an electrical problem, while the other is a problem related to the pumping of blood. And so I think that, you know, for the greater community, it's important to know that today, National Wear Red Day, is in honor of the Go Red for Women movement, which is the American Heart Association's premier initiative for women's cardiovascular health. But of course, we are also in American Heart Month, and the theme for American Heart Month is you are the first responder before help arrives. And that is really surrounded by our CPR and education awareness, because we know that that is so important as well. So a lot of things happening, but I also can't forget that it is Black History Month, and it's important to recognize that as well, because cardiovascular disease disproportionately affects the Black community. And we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep our community educated and informed about their risks.
So what are some of the things that you are doing within the American Heart Association Hampton Roads that people can tag along with, they can get involved? How can people support the efforts that you all are doing?
Great question. What's coming up very soon is our Go Red for Women luncheon. That is happening on Friday, February 20th at the Marriott Newport News. And we are bringing together just a couple hundred women and men, friends who champion this movement so that we can really take action together. The theme of this year for Go Red for Women is Red Means Go. It's a call to action because we're told all of our lives that red means stop, but we want women to feel empowered and confident and able to act when it comes to their own heart health. It's not time to, put your health off. It's time to say, I'm going to go to that Pilates class, or I'm going to go to that doctor's appointment, or I'm going to cook healthy this week because it benefits me and my body. So we're making sure that everyone knows that red means go for the Go Red for Women luncheon. We are certainly always available to do some hands-only CPR demonstrations, and we work a lot with our local colleges and universities to make those happen. But there are so many different opportunities, and people can always email us at hamptonroads@heart.org for more.
And Jalen, before I let you go here, thank you so much for being able to take the time. I know I called you to get on here, but a question or a topic that always comes up when it comes to health, and I find fascinating, is people not regularly getting checked.
Yes.
How important is that? How often should they be doing so? And what would you tell someone who, may feel like, oh, well, I always have time, or maybe they're apprehensive about seeking medical attention?
Mm-hmm. It's important to go to the doctor regularly, but it's also important to listen to your body. You know your body best, and whenever you feel like, oh, there's something wrong, but you kind of push it off, like, maybe I just haven't had enough water today, or maybe I haven't eaten today. It's important to not dismiss your own symptoms, because you know your body best, and sometimes that can be the difference in seconds and life and death. And so it's important to take our own bodies very, very seriously and see the doctor. It can be scary at times, but find an accountability partner, somebody who, maybe is experiencing that same apprehensive thought or anxiety around it. But truly, it is so important for your mind and your body.
Well, this is Jalen Brown, the Executive Director of the American Heart Association Hampton Roads, here on National Wear Red Day. Hopefully, if you're seeing this and you have time, you can put on something red out there in support of what they are trying to get across to people when it comes to heart disease and health in our country and our communities. Jalen, we appreciate you. I know that you are fully decked out in red. I haven't even seen you. I just know it. So we appreciate you as always, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks so much for having me.
All righty. Talk soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.
So there you have it. I mean, and Sarah, it's interesting because, the things that she was saying, obviously, heart disease and the impact that it has on women in our communities. But a lot of the advice she was giving is for everybody. So many people I know who have not gone to a doctor in a while. Just, they wait until something is wrong as opposed to going, prior to, and just consistently. And so to be able to hear her share some of those tips is really good. Was there anything that you took out of that you're like, you know what? I'm glad she said that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that you should be making the best choices that you can daily, just regardless. So, yeah.
Yeah. And definitely, like in our jobs, we talk about it. We're constantly on the go. We're stuck to our phones, or, whatever that may be. It can be a very intense environment, just the nature of what we do. And you think about the stress and the sleeping. And I know I've had to have that conversation with my doctors, with others. It's like, hey, listen, no matter what is going on, you have to try to prioritize sleep. And there are so many people, I think, that probably just need that nudge and that push and that reminder as we try to take care of ourselves, man. That's the big thing. So I'm glad that Jayla could take a few moments and talk to us about that. And Taylor just was able to kind of bring us into that. And I think right now it's 11:50 at this time. Looking at a few different things up here. Can we pull up, by any chance, News 1, Channel 1, which I think is VMix A on our side of things. So we haven't talked about this yet. The Winter Olympics. The Winter Olympics are officially underway, or maybe I should say unofficially underway, because we have not seen the opening the opening of the Olympics have not quite taken place yet. We are expecting that to happen soon, and then it will be rebroadcast, I do believe, later on this evening. But we know there have been a few games that have already taken place over the course of the last day or so, including the U.S. women's hockey team winning 5-1 in a match just yesterday. But the actual opening of the games takes place today. So right now you're taking a live look. This is in Milan, and you can see people are all out there, out and about. I can't imagine what that's like. Is that actually, I'm trying to see if that was a person wearing a USA jersey, but as you can imagine, there we go, Team USA right there in front of us. Tons of people are heading out there for the games, for the Winter Olympics for this year. Are there any particular games, Sarah, that you're like, I always love with the Winter Olympics? I know I have my favorites.
I was about to ask you the same thing. I always love ice skating. Ice skating is always fun to watch.
Yeah, of course.
And then snowboarding is cool too. And then is it the luge? Is that where they go down in the? It's the luge, right?
The luge?
Where they're like in a little thing and they go down a hill and they're like.
Is it a luge? You're not talking about bobsledding?
Maybe it is that.
You're talking about when they lay down flat, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you may be right there.
Yeah.
I never know what that thing is called. Mm-hmm. But I know exactly what you're talking. When they lay their bodies down flat and they go down, kind of like when you go swimming and with the tubes. Yeah, that's always fascinating. It's kind of scary to me because I imagine how fast you're going, and it's head first with that. Mm-hmm. But I would say bobsledding for me is always fun to see. You said snowboarding. I do love that. I like when they do the ski jumps. That's really cool because I just think about stuff that I would never in my life even attempt to do. So it's really kind of a thrill to see it. And you know what? I like hockey. I love to watch hockey and the competitiveness, but I particularly like international hockey, like when I'm watching them, when I do watch. I talked to someone earlier in our newsroom, and they were saying they were fascinated by curling.
Oh, is that the one where they have to like
with the brooms?
Yeah, okay. I was like, I like that one's pretty funny to watch too, but I also couldn't think of the name for it.
Yeah. Curling, and because my thing with that is I just don't know how it works. One person pushes, and so is it science or something of it, or you have to sweep the ice a certain way to keep it? There has to be something in that technique. Maybe we'll get like a professional curler or something one day to kind of show that all. But I wanted to at least show the moments of the Winter Olympics. Let me see if I can figure the exact time, if we have that, of the official opening ceremony. Let me see, because it should be, I want to say it's relatively soon. I know it's going to rebroadcast, I think, around 8 p.m. tonight for those who miss it. But I cannot remember the exact time. I want to say maybe it's noon. I don't want to make that up. Just want to make sure I tell people the right thing. If you find it, you let me know.
I was just thinking, now since we're talking about the Olympics, I just remembered that 2028 Summer Olympics will be in the USA.
Oh, yes. I have it, pinned down. Yeah, that's going to be such a great thing when it happens. And it's going to be here before you know it, to believe it. It's 2 p.m. 2 p.m. is when the opening ceremony will take place today. And then it will, I do believe, rebroadcast later tonight. But 2 p.m. So maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll be able to have some kind of elements, maybe, for the stream. I'm not quite sure. That starts at 1 o'clock, but that is at 2. So exciting stuff there. Oh, let's get, here's this look here. The stadium looks really, really nice out there as well. Looks like the weather is good for them, probably a little brisk. You got a lot of coats and jackets. So, but what can you expect? That's what you need for the Winter Olympics.
You know what fascinates me too is how once you are picked as a host city, that the Olympic Village and some of the stadiums are built specifically for the Olympics.
Yeah,
it's just really interesting how many years and years and years go into getting ready to host.
But also, what's exciting about, U.S. being a host in 2028 is that it truly does change that city. I'm from Georgia. Taylor's from Georgia as well. And I remember what Atlanta was like. I mean, I was young, but I remember what Atlanta was like before the 96 Olympics. And then the Olympics comes in 96, and everything is built up in that area around where Georgia Tech and other places are and where they are now. And some of the structures that were built then still remain. I mean, it changed everything. It pumped a life into the city of Atlanta that truly, I think a lot of people kind of attribute to some of the stuff that you see today in the city. As Taylor comes back in, we were just talking about the Olympics when it came to Atlanta in '96 and how it changed everything. When you have an Olympics in your community, in your city, in your area, it changes that place for good for many years. And so
Atlanta pre-1996
listen,
was not a thing.
It wasn't. It really solidified and validated the city.
It did. My parents moved to Atlanta in 1998. And so they kind of saw how it boomed right around that time.
Yeah.
And they said the city hasn't been the same since. I mean, the industrialization and like the housing boom of Atlanta grew. But unfortunately, with the Atlanta Olympics, there was also a bombing. There's just a lot that went on during that time as well.
Yeah, very well know that. I don't know if we talked about it here, but I went to the 96 Olympics prior to the bombing that took place. My dad took me and my sisters out there to the Olympic Village area, and then we were gone before everything took place. So, that is the unfortunate part in history when it came to that. But still, the impacts of the infrastructure and everything, it still was able to change the city for good. All right, I think with that, it's 11:58. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it there. I think that's a good place to stop and looking at the Olympic Village. Again, congrats to all of those who are out there competing, and best of luck to them. And, of course, best of luck to USA. And thank you for joining us here for our stream here on Live Impact News. Whether you watched us on YouTube or on 13 News Now Plus, we appreciate you. But if you have not already downloaded our stream, 13 News Now Plus, do so. You can find it on Roku, Amazon Fire, and on Apple TV. Up next, we'll have 13 News Now at noon with Ashley Smith. There'll be another stream for Live Impact News from 1 to 3, but that'll be with Connor Real and Nia Campbell. And then the next time you'll see the two of us will be on Monday at 10 a.m. Thanks for joining us.